what's up YouTube? So today I'm just going to do a quick video on trying to mess around with my Templar tank in 1.6 PTS. See what I can do with them, see if I can get some survivability and some DPS going. They took away a lot of our abilities that we really like as Templar tanks. Took away blinding flashes, instead gave assist, which does a lot of DPS, but single target is channeled. Channeled is terrible for tanks, so they also changed up restoring aura. It's still good, it's just nowhere near as good as it used to be. So there may be a stamina problem for Templar tanks now, unless I can find out another way to find stamina. So for testing purposes, I'm just going to go ahead and basically keep attacking this guy. I'm going to start by just attacking, see if I can survive for a few seconds and run away. And then I'm going to throw some attribute points in. So right now I don't even have any of that. I'll probably even just drop this too. Once I throw the attribute points in, I go in, see how I do, and then I'll start stacking in skills and playing with it and seeing what's effective and what's not. Basically though, I just want a baseline, see how survivable I am. If this video seems laggy to you, I apologize. Yeah, I don't have the best computer, but mostly just PTS in general is kind of laggy. So, let's see what we can do. That's enough of that. So, guess we'll go out the other way. So we weren't able to do a lot of damage. That's not surprising. We didn't have any abilities slotted. Mostly I just wanted to see if I could survive for a few seconds. See how baseline against a V10 world boss, how long I could survive as a V6 with nothing. So let's start adding some attribute points and see where we go from there. So standard, I used to put in 49 points health, and then with food and a couple other passes, that would actually get me to soft cap. I don't know if that's the way to go anymore. May want more health, may want a lot less, I don't know. But 49 points health is about 6,000 actual health on you. So that doesn't sound like a bad start. Then we'll just go ahead and throw the rest of this in stamina, I guess. I did have some points in Magicka. As you can see, my gear has some Magicka enchants. Back in 1.5 because I used to use Blazing Shield and Breath of Life a lot. However, I'm just going to go with a more typical tanking setup in favor of stamina. So might as well throw some abilities on as well. Well, I know I always used to rock Sun Shield. That was amazing. Great damage shield. And then I would actually change it to Blazing Shield. Looks like Blazing Shield is still a good morph for solo, because it's going to return the damage that they're doing to me, where the other morph does not. Unfortunately, even though this sounds better as a tank in principle, I find that the damage shields typically get one-shotted in dungeons, so they don't really do a whole lot. They're helpful, they can be a little bit clutch, save you a little bit on stamina. But if they're going to pop in one hit anyway, I'd rather it return some damage. Give me some more hate from trash mobs. Do a little bit of damage to bosses, a tiny bit of damage to bosses. But mostly to use it for solo purposes, so let's go with Blade and Shield morph again. I like that in the number 2 slot. Let's pick up. I don't really like the rest of these abilities for my tank setup normally. Not that there aren't some good ones. There's a good morph from Radial Sweep that can reduce damage by 15%. Puncturing Strikes can morph to heal you. There's some good options there. It's just nothing that I particularly favor. So I'm just going to throw in points in all these passives. Spear Wall is very important. You need an Adric Spear ability slotted for this to work, but that obviously makes you block a whole lot more. This is pretty interesting because every now and again it's supposed to give you a pop of extra damage. Not sure how that's going to work out though. And then this is just blanket good. As you can see, I'm only 49 because for the longest time the only thing that I've ranked up is Blazing Shields, or had on my bar. Okay, so Dawn's Wrath. Again, for tanking purposes, the only thing I have ever really used is Nova, which is amazing ultimate, or Blinding Flashes, which is no longer here. I'll get it just to show you what it's like, maybe even morph it. So base, it's a channel attack. It's based on I think Max Magicka, Burning Enemy, Law. Actually, it's not based on Max Magicka, I apologize. It just does a bunch of damage, again channeled, and it looks like an Execute. Okay, that's actually really cool. I didn't know about this morph. So this morph lets it heal you for 20% of the damage done. That is pretty dope.
That's why I'm stuck on which way to morph it. That's why
So here's what I was talking about. So this morph deals up to 40% additional damage, depending on the percentage of your current Magicka. So if you're 100% and you hit this ability as an opener, it's going to do the most damage it can do. Now, me not being a Magicka build, I won't get this ability to be stronger based on the additional Max Magicka that I don't have. But because I'm not a Magicka build, I'm a stamina health build, I'm not typically using my Magicka a whole lot, which means it's more often going to be at 80% or 100%. Still, I gotta go with the oh crap effect of it healing you. That's pretty cool. I think we'll check that out. Alright, Restoring Light. So, there's 3 abilities in here I used all the time. The first, of course, is Rush Ceremony, and I'd morph it to Breath of Life. So we're going to do the same thing. This morph, just like the 1.5 version, restores Magicka when healing low health allies, which can be really cool if you're a healer build or whatever, but if you're a tank, you're looking to just pop out a quick group heal. So that's where Breath of Life comes into play. I did used to use Restoring Aura, but it doesn't do what it used to do. So it used to give you a really good passive health and stamina regen. Now its passive gives you health, stamina, and Magicka regen, which is nice. But the active used to give you 80% more stamina and stamina regen. Now it only gives you 20%. So I think we're just going to let that go. And I used to use this a lot too. This was a pretty cool ability. Very cool visual effect, and it's very useful. I think we'll play around with this. This isn't something I've ever ranked up. We might put that on our bar. We'll go ahead and just get all these passes. almost forgot, we'll go ahead and get all the Dawn's Wrath passes as well. Okay, in a one-handed shield tree, gotta go for Course Matants. Now there's two ways to morph this, and they haven't changed drastically from 1.5. They used to give you some base values 1.5. I don't know how well that stacked with other things, but now it's using the buff system. So these do not stack with other major buffs. So Ransack gives you minor resolve, increasing your armor by 842 for 12 seconds. In 1.5 and previous versions, I never understood why people use Ransack. As a tank, your armor's almost always soft capped. So the extra 50% whatever armor it would give you just didn't seem to be better than the other morph Pierce Armor, because that one not only reduces the target's armor, but it also reduces their spell resistance, which means they die faster. Which means if they die faster, you're going to end up taking less damage. Now, my friend actually just pointed out to me that just like the Ransack buff not quite stacking right with other possible buffs you might have, the debuff system works the same way as the buff system. Is they can only have one major debuff of the same type on them. So you can't stack major spell resistant debuffs. Still though, overall, I gotta go with this. I think that's the better morph. We'll go ahead and also pick up all the passes for this. My guy rocks full heavy armor. Heavy armor, I think, got a huge upgrade in this because, depending on how you look at it, light armor got a huge debuff. Basically, if you want to do a ton of damage with Magicka abilities, you're rocking light armor, you're set, you're good to go. But if you want to be able to take a lot of damage, you definitely want to go heavy armor now. Before, you could kind of get away with it. You could do light armor to get all the damage buffs, but you would also be spell resist capped just right off the bat with light armor, and then with a simple ability such as immovable or the sorcerer's bound armor, you could be armor capped as well. So there's a much bigger divide now, and that's no longer the case. You can't do that. So for survivability, you gotta go heavy armor. You may be able to get away with medium armor build on tank still. Some other abilities that give you armor back, you might be able to make up the difference. I imagine though that you would be hurting on spell resist. One change to the skill tree is Juggernaut. Juggernaut now gives you max health. Before, it used to give you weapon damage or break-free reduction in cost. Bit of a change, however, 7% is pretty easy to see now that they upgraded the numbers. So I think I started this video somewhere around 13,000 health, something like that. I'll have to check again, but I'm now up to 21,000. With the attributes I've added in and a bunch of the passes I've gotten, it's quickly rising. I don't think we need to worry about that so much, although I will put point into here in case we die. It's easier to come back. I don't think we're going to werewolf out on this guy. Although I can tell you from experience from 1.5, a tank build rocking Werewolf is pretty unkillable. It's awesome. Way much improved over Werewolf from when the game launched. So they did a great job there. Fighters Guild, I used to use Circle Protection all the time. I still might. I gotta play with it. I don't know how much the 8% reducing damage works. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get other minor protection buffs from other things. So that's something you have to play with. There's going to be a lot of trial and error to see if you're overriding different buffs with different abilities in this game. None of these affect what we're about to fight, so don't worry about it. I don't use anything in the Mage's Guild line. I did like Volcanic Ruin. I probably still will. But that was very, very situational. Entropy I've never liked. They supposedly have made it better, but it never seemed to have the impact I was always looking forward to have. It always seemed like a very, very minor skill that you might put on your bar if you wanted to trigger some of these Mage Guild's passives, or you really had nothing else to put on your bar. Now here's a very, very big change. So Bone Shield used to be a Magicka ability that would give you a bunch of extra armor for a few seconds, and it had a really cool synergy which would give everyone in your party a 60% damage shield based on their max health. That was awesome. It's now a stamina ability that base gives you a damage shield based on your max health by 30%. It still has that synergy, so they can still throw that up. That works great. I unfortunately won't be able to show you in this video, but I know for a fact that when you morph it, it can also return damage. So you throw up this damage shield and it's returning a small percentage of the damage that you're receiving. I think it's actually a flat number, but as a tank, it definitely looks like a really cool ability. Fortunately, it takes quite a while to level up, but I probably will be playing with this at some point. Let's see here, what else we got? I don't think there's anything in the Lion's Tree. You see I don't PvP a whole lot. I'll go ahead and pick up the racial passives though. So this is changed to the Argonians in 1.6. Instead of getting a really, really nice potion buff, now whenever they drink a potion, they get a 2% to their max health, magic, and stamina restore. Of course, that goes up, I think, to 60%. That's not bad. As far as getting rid of the old potion buff we did have, that sucks. But if they're going to make up for it in any way, this is probably not a bad way to go. And these two abilities is why I think Argonians make great tanks. I've never seen a soft cap to the bonus healing you receive in 1.5 or previous versions. I still don't in 1.6. So getting as much bonus healing as you can get is really, really cool. And then of course, extra poison, disease, resist, whatever, that's all good. Now let's throw an ultimate on here as well. I think we're going to go with the Fighters Guild ultimate. See how that looks, because I heard they changed that a little bit. So Flawless Dawnbreaker. Yeah, definitely it got changed. So this used to give you a bit more weapon damage than what it's currently giving you. I think we're still going to rock with that. Let's see where it takes us. So we're going to run in, we're going to taunt, even though they're only going to be attacking us anyway, to drop their armor and spell resist. We're going to have blazing shields going, and we're going to keep that going every time it pops. Hopefully we have enough magic in case we ever get in trouble, we can always pop that. I think we'll also probably open up the fight with this, actually. That we may not even use. Now we have better use for stamina. So, let's check the abilities. Alright, let's go ahead and open up with that. Not looking good. Say it, I think we're gonna run. And we're gonna give him a nice little tap to send him on his way. Go home. There you go. Alright. So, before any attributes and skills, of course, we didn't really do much damage, but we were able to survive a few seconds and move around. Now that I got a few skills on the bar, my attributes loaded out, I was able to drop both the mobs down to about 50%, and stay alive for quite a while before I basically just ran out of resources. Potion was still on cooldown. Wasn't looking that good. You might have noticed that my ultimate popped quite a few times in that fight. That's the new ultimate generation system. So, for people who never played a tank, tanks generated very, very little ultimate. Unless they had some type of mass AoE spam with crit, which is kind of weird for a tank, you didn't generate ultimate. Now, I'm moving and grooving in the fight, I'm blocking, I'm getting in some light attacks, I'm getting in a heavy attack, and I'm generating ultimate just the same rate as everyone else. So I'm actually a really, really big fan of that change. So, still need to be able to kill those guys though, so what can we do? Let's go ahead and take a look at the champion system. Now unfortunately, I only have a few skill points available. I actually thought that this was the PTS part where they gave us max skill points, but apparently not. Oh, we have to make a template. I will be right back. I'm going to go make a template, get max points, and then we'll come back and we'll play with this, and then we'll see what we can do. So, in case you were wondering, this is Craglorn. That's pretty much all there is to see. We can leave now. It's pretty much just this one little lake area. Don't let anyone lie to you. Load! Load, damn you! Load! It's kind of close to loading. It's thinking really, really hard about it. So I clicked play the tutorial, but it took me to the laggy ass Craglorn anyway. That's cool. Let's see if I have my champion points now. And I have a couple champion points to spend. 1 or 2. So let's bounce back to my tank. Okay, now we got a bunch of champion points to spend, so let's take a look at that. Now, I should remind you that for the purposes of PTS, they unlock the max amount of champion points available, which if I'm not mistaken, basically means I can purchase every champion ability in the game right now, everything that's available. They did point out that the game is not meant to be played like that, and that will make the game very unbalanced. It will be basically easy mode. We're not going to do that, just because it does seem like a lot of cheese, and honestly it doesn't really test anything in my opinion. We are going to use quite a few champion points. I think what we're going to do is we're either going to play around with a little bit with 2 trees, or we're just going to go all the way up through 1 tree. That's still a lot of champion points being used, and we'll take a look at that afterwards. But I think it will give us a little bit better example of what's going on. So, let's go ahead and take a look at the Thief first, because it's here. So the Thief constellation, or Major constellation, however you want to think about it, is a little weird. Where the Warrior is kind of focused a little bit in survivability, I'd have to say, and the Mage is focused in damage, not necessarily magic damage. The Thief is kind of focused in regeneration and kind of basically everything that's left out of the Warrior and the Mage. We'll take a look at some of these passives. I will probably skip through some of this until I can figure out which ones to take for you guys, and we'll go from there. Oh, alright, so I'm going to go ahead and explain this real quick. So each minor constellation, such as the Tower, which is in the Thief Major constellation, not 100% sure that's the correct vocabulary, but that's what I'm going with, has 4 places you can put points. Once you have enough points in the minor constellation altogether, you will unlock one of its passives, such as Ensnare. So once I put 10 points in here, which I can either do by putting 10 points in Warlord, or 5 points in Magician and 5 points in Tumbling, or 4, 2, 2, 2, I will unlock Ensnare. This goes up to Inspiration Boost, Mirror's Gift, and War Mount. If I'm not mistaken, check that real quick before I say it, these aren't always the same numbers. So like I was saying, this is the same numbers in all the trees. 10, 30, 75, and 120. So, there's some useful things in here, but I think we're going to go ahead and skip this tree. And here we have our regeneration. This is also probably my favorite Thieves constellation place to put points. Obviously, this could be really, really powerful if you do a lot of heavy attacks, if you have passives that make your heavy attack stronger. Big fan of this as a tank to get stamina back. Even some of the passives you get aren't terrible, such as the Gain 2 Ultimate. However, you'll notice in Thieves Constellation, a lot of these passives really aren't great when you compare them to the Mages or the Warriors. So, although I gotta admit, as a tank, I do like the idea of faster movement. So, we're going to go ahead and throw some points into here. And we're probably just going to dump 120 points. So what we're going to do is probably just do 30, 30, 30. Now one thing you're going to notice when we do this is right now 1 point will give me 1%. But the second point only gives me a 0.5% increase. You can dump all your points into a single star, however, spreading them out can ultimately be more effective. It just really depends on your build. So now it's 1.9. Yet if I go over here, I'm still getting the full 1%. 1.6, 2.2. you might go, well, wait a minute, that's not the same numbers as over here. They don't all scale the same, but they're independent of each other. So just because I have a bunch of points in this doesn't change anything over here. As we go through this, we're going to obviously unlock passives. So let's go ahead and put 30 in here. 30 points, where the first point gave me 1%, the 30th point gave me a 0.1%. So there's obviously some pretty hefty reduction in returns. Now, Magicka Regen is not super important for us. However, we're going to go ahead and lock that anyway. So, we've unlocked Wind Running, Master Gatherer, Synergizer, Plentiful Harvest. None of these are going to actually help us in this fight, except for maybe Wind Running. However, these all will. So before we put any points in the champion system, I'm just going to go down here and show the menu screen one more time, the character screen, and show you what our stats look like. Should have done that before. Okay, let's take a look at the Mage constellation. So we have the Apprentice, the Arcanok, and the Ritual. Now there's a lot of really interesting abilities in here. This tree seems to be very crit based. It does have some really interesting passes, such as this one, which is great for tanks. This one seems to be, if any of these are magic damage based, this one definitely feels that way. It has the Elemental Expert, Spell Erosion, even Elfborn, which are all good. Now, these would actually affect our Blazing Shields, so these actually wouldn't be useless to us at all. And increase the effectiveness of any healing you initiate, so when I throw out a Breath of Life, that's going to get bigger based on this. Obviously, we're always blocking, so being able to block and get a crit, guaranteed crit, is pretty nice. However, this tree has one ability that I'm dying to try out. It looks really, really cool. And that's this. So while blocking, get a 15% chance to return a crap ton of damage to attacker when you block a melee attack. This used to be a lot weaker. When 1.6 PTS first opened up, this was a pretty small amount given the numbers that are everywhere else in the game. The amount of health everything has, the amount of damage everything does. However, I still liked it then. It was nice then just to have some free damage I'm returning. Now, 2,000 damage in the new system is actually a decent amount of damage when you consider that most people are somewhere between 15 and 25,000 health. That's just free return of damage. So we're going to put points into here. Unfortunately, this probably has the least, my least favorite places to put points. So we have bow, we have maces and axes, we have blades, and we have staves. So if I throw all my points into here, it starts going up very, very slow because I'm dumping all my points into one constellation. Also, in order to get any effect from this star, I have to use a sword pretty much the rest of the life of this character unless I respec these points. I could also throw points into here, however, these points would be useless while I had a sword equipped, and these points would be useless while I had a mace equipped. So it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If I had some type of range weapon that I used very often, something I'd solo with, something I would use for range tanking, then I could also throw points into here. Unfortunately, my guy doesn't really do a whole lot of that. I think I will divvy it up and throw some points probably in bow, though. What's that? I am using a mace, so I'm going to take these points out. My friend just pointed out I'm using a mace, so see, that could have been tragic right there. We could just completely screwed this up. One interesting thing. If you go ahead and hold shift and hit the plus, you go by 10s instead of 1s. So if we throw all 100... Wow. Okay, hey, so good thing to note, you can only have 100 points in any given constellation. At 100, my damage with maces and axes is improved by 25%. If I put 20 points into bows, which is obviously 20% of 100, probably going to edit that part out. If I put 20 points into bows versus the 100 points into heavy weapons, I get 8% increase, which is not 20% of 25%. So, again, it just goes back to the diminishing returns as far as your investment. But for these points that we just put in, we gained retaliation. Increases damage on your next physical attack after blocking a heavy attack. If you're a tank, you do this all the time. Butcher, light and weapon heavy attacks deal 5% extra damage to targets under 25%. This means your normal attacks are basically executes now. Obviously, the return damage. Attack decision. Sets enemy off balance when you successfully roll dodge to avoid their attack. I am not that good of a player, but it's still nice because I accidentally roll dodge all the time. Who knows? So, we're going to go over to the warrior tree. Now, the warrior tree, I'm really kind of divided as far as my Templar tank goes. There's some really good abilities all over this tree. Again, this tree focuses a lot on resiliency, survivability. So this tree has a lot of really great passives that I think would do an awesome job matching up well with the Templar passives, such as reducing damage received while resurrecting another player. Templars have the better res. Not only is it faster, but also gives a lot more health back. So that's very tempting. There's a nice little tiny, but there's a nice damage shield. I'm drinking a potion. That's great. I get a damage shield after being resurrected and allowing me to go straight to taunting the boss. That's obviously great. Healing potions. This is a really good tree for me. Light armor focus is going to do nothing for my heavy armor tank because he wears all heavy armor. He could easily wear a couple pieces of light. However, since he's focused mostly on survival and there are new changes to light armor, I'd have to play around with that to see how viable that is, if that would actually be really worthwhile. There is the Undaunted passes that would make that better, but whether or not it'd be worth putting points in this, certainly, I don't know. Reduction damage is great. Again, reduction damage and reduction damage. Vampires are probably going to stack the crap out of that. This was probably very bad for a tank. So if something hits me for 30% of my health, and I'm the tank, something just hit me very hard. It would mean that I could probably pop a Breath of Life or put up a damage shield very quickly, but the times that this would go off is very seldom. I can think of a few bosses in dungeons that could easily do that, but other than that, that's probably not going to pop too often. That's pretty nice. However, again, I'm tanky. I do put impenetrable on my gear. I still don't know how well that works against PvE content. I've seen arguments both ways on that. But, you know, extra health back is always cool. So, critically striking, I hardly have any weapon crit, if I have any, so that's kind of useless for me. That's a really nice one. Being a tank, I get hit with a lot of the big CCs, the fears, the knockdowns, things like that. So being able to break free of that and being able to go right back to just immediately taunting the crap out of everything, and that should also affect blocking, so 80% reduction to the cost of blocking. That would be really good. So also a good tree for me. So reduce cost of blocking, increase spell resistance, reduce the amount of damage you take from crits, and then medium armor, which I don't wear, although I could. These are all good for me. They're a little bit like these over here. Gives your bash a 20% chance to restore 1,000 health. That's pretty great. I've seen people argue about this skill. So, Shield Expert increases armor and spell resistance of shields by 75%. I think this means the shield that you have equipped as a one-handed shield person. That's a great passive. The shield you have equipped is a ton of armor, and with the new system, and also a ton of spell resistance. With this passive, that increases it, makes it even better. That's great. However, I've seen people think that this also means, or this means damage shields exclusively, or also damage shields. I don't believe that to be the case. I kind of want to dump some points in here to test that, and I probably will and let you know later. But for right now, I'm going under the assumption that that just affects one-handed shield. After roll dodging, your armor and spell resistance increased by a good amount for 3 seconds. That's awesome. I don't roll dodge except on accident, so that doesn't do a whole lot for me. When activating block, gain a damage shield for a very small amount for 10 seconds. So you get basically a very small, tiny damage shield every 10 seconds. That's not really going to work for us. I don't think that's the best use of our points at the moment. So I really want to put points everywhere, and that's, by the way, something you could do. You can totally put 30 points here, 30 points here, and 30 points over here. However, actually, I think we should show that. Just divvy up the points. 30 points between each tree. That's how we're going to go with this. So I think we're going to do... Yeah, we are. Okay, so we're... So what we're going to do is we're going to do 40 points in this, 40 points in this, and 40 points in here. Honestly, just to show you what that looks like, to show you that you can do that. So we don't have a problem with blocking. I don't know how often we're getting critted in PvE, so we're going to dump 30 points in spell resistance. So that unlocked the 20% chance to get 1,000 health back from bashing, and then accidentally increasing my armor and spell resistance by a somewhat small amount. Then we're going to throw 40 points in here. There is so much fire in the game that even though I'm a werewolf and probably wouldn't mind the reduction to poison and just flat magic damage, I think I'm going to go ahead and put the 40 points in here. That gave us spell absorption. We would need to get hit really hard for that to take effect, unfortunately. And then we get some health back whenever we're critted, which probably isn't going to happen, so... At least not in PvE. Or at least not for this test. So, increase the effectiveness of healing potions. That's pretty awesome. How's that scale? It scales fairly well. However, I think we're okay on armor as well. Increase the effectiveness of healing receipt. It's kind of hard to argue that that's in any way bad. That's excellent. But for the purposes of soloing, I think we're going to check this out. So that gave us 13% more effective damage shields, which includes both the Blazing Shield and our Undaunted damage shield. That gave us some Resurrection abilities, which are nice. Fortunately, they're not useful at all at the moment. So we're going to go ahead and confirm these points. So, spending 120 points in each of the major constellations would require 360 champion points to be earned. at release of 1.6 to the normal game, veteran characters V14 maxed XP, or characters with, say, 2 V8s, or people with 2 V8s, are going to be able to get the maximum amount of pre-release champion points, which is 70 points. That is nowhere close to 360. So let's go see what we can do now. So this is a character screen now. I can already tell you by looking at this, some of the stats are improved. Our blazing shields are stronger by about 4%, which means the return on damage is stronger. This is also stronger. Also, you should notice that the synergy on this is stronger, which is kind of interesting. We also gain this spell shield. I honestly cannot remember where we got that from, but it sounds cool. Alright, so let's give this another shot and see where it goes. Potion. So we're doing pretty good. We got this guy almost all the way down. Just working on blazing shield. Now there's one guy left. He's pretty chump. So that was a V6 and 1.6 PTS taking on a V10 world boss. Definitely not a tricky thing to do in 1.5. I've actually killed this guy before in 1.5. But with the changes in some of my abilities and wanting to check out the new champion system and see how the new numbers worked out, I want to go ahead and put together this video. I hope you guys took away something from it and enjoyed watching it. Please let me know in the comment section below if you have any suggestions or any thoughts for me. Appreciate it. Take it easy. Peace out, YouTube.